Hello, my name is Jacob_114, and today in this video we will finally be reviewing the first Marvel movie to come out in 2025, Captain America: Brave New World. Now, before I get into the positives and negatives of this movie, I do want to say my experience real quick. For being a mid MCU movie, it was a fun experience going to, and not like the type of experience like the Minecraft movie or any other movie that's been popularized and you have a fun time going to, but just in general, in my personal opinion, that was a fun experience going to go see Captain America: Brave New World, with it being the first MCU movie of 2025. And to put it simply, this experience was just me, two other friends going to a movie theater all by ourselves and just watching the movie. And man, I gotta say, with that experience being a main factor of me watching this movie, this made me look at the movie a whole different way than what the internet was saying about it at the time. Because at the time, and maybe some people might agree along with myself, people were calling this movie really bad and just really like the lowest of the low that Marvel could have get. But in my opinion, that movie is not that. This movie was really solid, and I think that, this movie did not deserve all the hate it got. And as a standalone film, it's a pretty good film. And even as a Marvel film, and leading up to the overarching story, it's a pretty good film too. But I'll touch upon those topics later in the video. But overall, yeah, the experience of going to see it in theaters, pretty good. And I will now dive into this film. What are the goods, what are the bads, what is mid about this movie, and overall give a final rating at the end of this video. My first point I like to bring up is that this movie is overall really solid. It's not too bad as Rotten Tomatoes says, or as anyone else says on the internet, but it is pretty solid, and I say it's in like the low, it's in the mid-tier of MCU films. If you were to rank all the MCU films, sure, this film would rank very, very low, mainly because there's some really good shiners in the MCU that this film doesn't really compare to. But still, even in the mid-tier, it is still pretty good, and it stands as its own strong film. So that is why this movie is pretty solid, and it's not too bad. It's not too great either. You know, it's not the best of the best that this year has to show, but overall, this movie is not too bad. It's pretty solid. Another good thing that makes this movie really solid is the plot lines that they like to telling in this movie that makes it really well and really just shine out through all out. It has some plot lines such as Sam being the new Captain America, him having a new sidekick called also being the new Falcon, Thunderbolt Ross trying not to be exposed by the new villain, the leader, mind controlling people to do his own bidding. Now, this movie has some really lot plot lines that are all out this film that are really well told, and is what make this movie really solid, since these plot lines are enjoyable to watch, and I had a pretty fun time with them, and I'm pretty sure a good decent amount of people also like this movie just for these plot lines of the MCU, telling good Marvel stories and having good action along the way. And speaking of Marvel story, this film does a good job at being an overall contribution to the overarching Marvel story that the MCU is trying to accomplish now. With some controversies making stuff at Marvel a bit messy and making things, out of order. After some officializing and some agreements, they came to adjust, and they finally officialized a new Avengers movie called Avengers Doomsday instead of what was supposed to have Avengers Kang Dynasty. And this movie really is good at trying to set up and prepare for Avengers Doomsday, as making Sam, embracing him as the new Captain America, aka the leader of the new Avengers. And this movie does that really well, and it's another positive that this film has, that what makes this lower tier MCU film stand out than the others, and it's what makes it shine out than the other films that the MCU has in its lower tier. And what makes this movie really good is of how good of a main character Sam Wilson is. We've seen him being a side character in multiple MCU films. Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Civil War, the Avengers film. We have seen him be sidelined, because there's other main characters in those for films that they prioritize. But in this film, when they prioritize Sam Wilson to be a main character, with him being the new Falcon, they just do it really good, because overall he's just a good main character alongside his sidekick Joaquin Torres, who is a new Falcon. And it's a good parallel if you see that Sam Wilson was once the Falcon to Captain America, and now Sam Wilson is Captain America, he has a Falcon as well, Joaquin Torres, which sort of resembles how Sam Wilson started out. But yeah, those two main characters are pretty good to watch out through this film, and it's what makes this film really good, despite being in the lower tier. So That's another point that this movie has going for it. Sam Wilson's just a good main character. Another good point that I want to bring up is the action in this movie. The action in this movie is actually really spectacular. After going over watching the two main action scenes that stood out to me, which is the dogfight scene at Celestial Island and then Sam Wilson versus the Red Hulk. Those action scenes are actually spectacular from a low budget movie because first off, if we're having a Captain America film which this new Captain America is sort of a Falcon, we have to have some aerial action. And the aerial action scene at Celestial Island was really, really spectacular with them slicing up missiles in half and them trying to de-escalate the situation. It was really awesome just seeing that. And then Sam Wilson versus Red Hulk. Yes, it is an unrealistic fight. Of course, Red Hulk is going to win against Sam Wilson, but still, seeing them two clash together and fight to just to de-escalate the situation that Thaddeus Ross is in is really cool because the action scenes that we got with Hulk, that is what we've been missing from normal Hulk for a long time. And to see Red Hulk just bring that to the live action screen and him just, casually wrecking up the place, it's just really, really fun to watch. And him like making long jumps just to get at Sam Wilson was really impressive. And I was just really surprised with what they did with Red Hulk in this film and how they didn't show everything in the trailers. Like actually the fights that we saw was really cool. And Sam Wilson doing his part of trying to defend himself against Red Hulk was pretty cool too. You get to see him utilize all his Wakandan tech that he has and utilize Red Ring and Captain America's shield. It was really cool to see him fend off against Red Hulk. And obviously that's all I have to say for this point that the film has. It's pretty cool just seeing this film have good action, and finally it's actually good action in Marvel that we've been missing a lot. And I'm pretty sure the rest of these two films, Marvel films that came out this year, they are promised to have some good action too. And it's weird because if I had a nickel every time a character in red damaged the Washington Monument in the MCU, I have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's still weird that it happened twice. Now, after talking about some positive points that this movie has, obviously there are some negatives that bring this movie down, such as the character designs. See, in between Falcon and Winter Soldier and Brave New World, Sam Wilson, I guess, got a new suit, mainly because the actor had a hard time wearing the suit in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because he said it was hot as hell. But he changed suits, and honestly, I couldn't even tell the difference. And even when I did, I still think Sam Wilson's suit is pretty decent. And with the Wakandan helmet that he has, for air travel, I think that's pretty cool too. And Joaquin Torres' Falcon suit is cool too. I like that suit as a starter suit for him being the new Falcon. So that's pretty cool for him. These two characters having good suits. But one character design in particular is I guess you could say, like, main villain of this film, Samuel Stearns, the leader. His design is just not all that good. He looks like Dr. Zomboss's cousin. Like, literally, I don't know why they decided to give him that look when in the comics it's clear that he doesn't have a radiating head. Instead, his head is covered and it's just a longer head than usual. They teased that at the end of Incredible Hulk, so I don't know why they didn't keep that design, but still, it's just weird. I don't know. I mean, they pulled off the green look right, but still, it's just not right. But looking at the leader's design really made me think that if him and MODOK just switched CGI designs, then I feel like those two characters could look really better and shine than what the normal versions look like. Because the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, instead of the radiating head that he has in the comics, instead it looks like a little balloon, and it's just CGIing the actor's head on there instead of like actually putting in some work, and it just looks really bad. And not to say that the CGI in Captain America Brave New World is bad either, it's just the wrong type, because I feel like if they just made his head just like a balloon shape like in the comics, then it could be really better. And then I feel like if they just made MODOK's head radiating instead of a balloon shape, then that could be better too. So if these two characters just switch CGI styles, then those two designs would be way better than what we have now. But we can't fix it, so at least we have what we have now, and we can work with what we got. So I'll appreciate them for at least trying to make the leader look menacing, but still just the wrong design choice. Now, another point I want to bring up that it's not really negative nor is it positive is the acting / the actors, that they were good for the most part. Now, not to say that the acting in this movie is bad. The acting is decent. You get decent acting from Anthony Mackie, Danny Torres, and a bunch of other characters. But two stickouts that I want to really point out that this movie had is Carl Lumbly and Harrison Ford. Now, Carl Lumbly plays Isaiah Bradley, and he's also done Dick Halloran from Dr. Sleep. And his performance in that was really good, even being on screen just for 10 minutes. And in this movie, and I guess if you count Falcon and Winter Soldier, his performance as Isaiah Bradley, like Captain America that got locked up for doing the same thing Steve Rogers did, his performance of portraying that character and that sort of tragedy is pretty good. And this is what gives the movie, some points. It's not enough people recognize how tragic of a character Isaiah Bradley is, and they rarely talk about it when mentioning this movie, even though that Isaiah Bradley is a key plot point. So I'm just pointing it out that Isaiah Bradley is just a good character, and Carl Lumbly does a good job of acting. And then another actor, Harrison Ford, which you may know him for Indiana Jones, Han Solo, and a bunch of other characters he's played and been recognized for. But him showing up in this movie and filling in for Thaddeus Ross, because Thaddeus Ross was previously played by William Hurt, who sadly passed away in March 2022. And basically, in the comics, Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is supposed to be the Red Hulk, which is the not main villain, but it's at least a particular villain that everyone saw in the marketing for this movie. And I bet everyone that immediately, fell in love with the idea of Thaddeus Ross in the MCU eventually turning out to be Red Hulk would have loved to see William Hurt play that role, since he has been playing Thaddeus Ross for countless other roles. He's been playing Thaddeus Ross for countless movies in the MCU. And unfortunately, due to his passing, they couldn't CGI him, so they had to pick someone else. And Harrison Ford filling in for William Hurt is exactly not the exact ideal choice, but it was a good choice, because in this movie, Harrison Ford does a good job of acting as Thaddeus Ross. He does a good job at acting as the President of the United States. He did good for modeling the face of Red Hulk, because the CGI in this movie is really good with what they could do with Harrison Ford onto Red Hulk. And I know everyone would love to see William Hurt be Red Hulk, but Harrison Ford does an equally good amount of job of what William Hurt could have done. So I'll give the movie points for that. But still, the negative side of this is Garnachulo Espiato, sorry if I pronounced it wrong, being in this movie. Now, he is a prominent, well-known actor for being a Mandalorian, Breaking Bad, and a touch of other stuff that he has done. And in those roles that he is in, he does a spectacular job of just playing a good bad guy, a good antagonist for that TV show. And honestly, seeing him in this movie and watching him perform just really, I don't know how to feel about it. I mean, I like the actor, don't get me wrong, but it just felt wrong seeing him here, because he was playing such a low side villain that he did not have to be in this movie. They did not have to waste such a good actor on a low tier villain role, and that just sucks seeing him there, because they could have used him for any other high legacy villain, and instead they just put him here for Sidewinder, which no one's probably gonna remember him in 5 years. And like I said, they did a good job of keeping Harrison Ford as a memorable actor, and now but they had to trade off and waste Garnachulo Espiato. So I mean, it's what you get. So that's just kind of what brings the movie down, wasting such a good actor on a little side role. But yeah, that's all this point has. Now, another point of this film I want to bring up that is a really unpopular opinion, but in my opinion, the post-credit scene of this film was so good. Now, don't start flaming me in the comments saying, oh, the post-credit scene's bad. Why would you say that? I know that everyone disregarded it and saying that it's possibly one of the worst post-credit scenes, and usually post-credit scenes, meanings in Marvels, is it's supposed to lead up to the next film, or it's supposed to tease what else is coming. And I don't know why everyone hated it, because it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It was teasing what's coming next. Of course, after it says Captain America will return, and obviously it's for Avengers Doomsday. But the scene itself really did tease a lot, because before Marvel had their big Doomsday casting live stream, no one could have suspected who was going to return in Avengers Doomsday, thinking it would only be the main universe heroes and Fantastic Four heroes to fight against Doctor Doom, which would be kind of lackluster. But in the theater, when the leader said, quote, "Think this is the only world, we'll see what happens when you have to protect this place from the others," was genuinely so cold for a character with probabilities and vast knowledge in the recent MCU movies, him knowing or possibly knowing about the events of Avengers Doomsday beforehand is kind of a good impact. And him sharing this information to Captain America, who is a grounded hero and has no information about the multiverse unlike other heroes in recent MCU projects, that's a pretty good impact for what this post-credit scene was trying to do. And this proves that the scene is good. And now the mention of the others, it's really kind of just ponders over my mind from time to time whenever he did say the others in his quotes. And before the live stream, obviously after the live stream, we knew that most of the OG X-Men cast was coming back. But whenever first hearing about the others, it made me think who was going to be the others, whether it was going to be the 2000 heroes that were stuck in the void, or the OG X-Men, or Deadpool and Wolverine, or even any other OG Spider-Person. Most of these options would be pretty cool to see in Avengers Doomsday, and possibly see the main MCU heroes having a face-off against the old multiverse Marvel heroes. And now hearing this audio and Doomsday edits when I scroll on TikTok, it makes me think that really the majority of people change their mind and they think that this post-credit scene is really good. And that's just why I disagree for the post-credit scene to be pretty mid. So disagree all you want, but the post-credit scene is good. Now I kind of want to get through these last 5 points because I don't want this video to be too long. But this new point that makes this movie kind of good is the cameo is pretty good. You know, the cameo in this movie was Bucky Barnes. And for a while in the MCU, cameos are what sort of another character from another project, or just existing in the MCU, will show up in the movie and just have a little scene. And the scene between Bucky and Sam Wilson was pretty good, knowing that they were sort of good friends in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, and seeing them competing for the spot of Captain America in that show, and now seeing Bucky reconnect with Sam Wilson after he's now Captain America is pretty good. It shows how good of their friendship is, and of course, if it kind of shows us a moment of them before what goes down in Thunderbolts. But I'll talk about that in the Thunderbolts video. But right now they're good friends, and it's pretty good just seeing him encourage Captain America keep going, and it gives them some wisdom. So that's what makes this movie and the cameo pretty good. It's nice to see Marvel do cameos whenever they bring out a character from another project, and it's just kind of what ties together the universe. Finally, another point, the villains of the movie, they're decent. There's 3 villains in the movie: Sidewinder, the Leader, and Red Hulk. Sidewinder, like I said before, really sucks, wasted actor, and kind of just a wasted villain, as he's beat by Captain America without having his gear. And then the Leader, smart villain, bad design, but he's pretty good, at being menacing and carrying out smart plans, even though eventually it fails, but still, he was pretty menacing. And then finally, Red Hulk. Red Hulk was such a good villain for the year 2025, and I'm so glad that Red Hulk was able to make everyone, everyone doubt Sam, because Sam doesn't have the super soldier serum, so there's no way how Sam is supposed to be Red Hulk without the serum, but somehow he does, and I'll get into that why it kind of is bad, but so far, yeah, the villains are decent, and it was pretty good just seeing him going toe-to-toe with Captain America. So Red Hulk was pretty good, and that's all I have to say. Now, another point that's kind of really negative is that the movie was clearing up past stories. That, I just don't know why they do that. See, so the second tier villain of this movie, the Leader, he is all the way back from The Incredible Hulk, which came out like 2010 probably, and that's like a 25-year-old movie. So I don't know why they finally decided this was the time to bring back the Leader and make him a villain. But this movie just kind of was the excuse to resolve up some stories from The Incredible Hulk. So Thunderbolt Ross turning into Red Hulk, and the Leader causing that, and it was just, I don't know why they would do that. And then another past story they had to clear up is the dead Celestial in the ocean, which apparently is made out of adamantium. But the dead Celestial from the ocean was from the movie Eternals, which no one really cared to see. So this movie just kind of used it just to clear up past stories, clear up those past problems that were left. So that's kind of what brings this movie down a bit. And speaking of adamantium being a key plot point in this movie, it was just alright. Like, low key, like, I don't know, adamantium is mostly known for being somewhat inside of Captain America's shield, but it's also the main metal that they put inside Logan Howlett's. Sorry, I forget. He goes by James Howlett's exoskeleton, and they inject it into there, and then he becomes the Wolverine with the metal claws. But I mean, I know like this is not X-Men film. They're not gonna bring up Wolverine entirely, but they should have had some at least mention of the Weapon X project. At least just like one little brief showcasing. And even if they did that, I would have been okay with it. But I mean, adamantium was just kind of there, just show how the world was fighting over it for being the strongest metal, stronger than vibranium, surprisingly. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about adamantium being a key plot point. It was just alright. Another good point that this film has that Sam Wilson carries on the legacy of Captain America good. And yes, it has been resolved in the past show that, it's strange for Sam because it's a black man carrying the Captain America shield. And, in that world, apparently it is wrong. But he proves that it was right, and it is right. I do like Captain America being the new Captain America. He carries on the legacy that Steve left really good. And it's just wonderful seeing this movie do exactly that. It's showcasing how Captain America is a good he is a good main character. He is a good Captain America. He was better than what John Walker had for his run, and he so far is putting on a good performance. And for him being able, I like seeing that this version of Captain America is going to be leading the new Avengers, because supposedly he is a good leader. I do like his leading style and his partnership with Joaquin Torres. So it's pretty good just seeing Sam carrying on the legacy good. And finally, one last point that brings this movie down a whole lot is that there was horrible visuals at the end of this movie. Now, this movie had to go through some quiet reshoots because it didn't really do well with test audiences. And so then when they had to reshoot the movie, at the end, you can notice some bad green screening that I saw in the theater, and I thought looked really, really bad. Like, it's like has to be some of the worst noticeable green screening anyone could watch. And even whenever at the end of the fight, whenever he's trying to talk down Red Hulk to turn back into Thaddeus Ross, that looks bad too, because it's just the CGI is just. I mean, Red Hulk in general, he's a good CGI character, but just how they dealt with it was just pretty bad. It's just sucked a whole lot. Yeah, but yeah, that's really what brings us down the movie a lot. The horrible visuals at the end, and I just wish, they just didn't really mess that up. If they found some way just to resolve the Red Hulk situation, this movie could have been good. But yeah, so that's all I have to say. That's my last point out of all 15 points. Now let's see how I rate this movie. My final thoughts of this movie is that this movie is not really good, but it's not the worst movie. It should not be regarded as top 10 worst movies of 2025. Overall, this movie was just an alright movie. It just should not be in the lower tier. But for MCU films, this is definitely in the lower tier. But out of the lower tier, this is a good gem that you could find. This is an alright movie that should not be regarded as one of the worst movies ever. It's a pretty good movie, solidifying that Sam is Captain America. Whether the fact he knows that he is going to be looked upon weird, and he's going to be looked like he's going to be judged because he's a black man carrying the red and white stripes. And it's good seeing him embrace that he rightfully earned the spot to be Captain America. And this is what this movie does right, and that's why I'm giving the movie a 6 out of 10. Not too good, but so far it's a pretty okay film. And yeah, that's all I have to say for Captain America Brave New World. Next video, you'll see what that is in a couple of weeks or months. It takes long to make these, but if I were to make these, I would appreciate if y'all like and subscribe, and so I could reach out support. It's really free. It doesn't give me anything, just gives me more courage and more motivation to make these videos for you. Anyway, this has been Jacob_114, and I will see y'all in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.